How's it going, you awesome bunch of bakers? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'll show you how to make super soft and puffy blueberry and lemon rolls. So let's get in the kitchen and get started. We have made cinnamon rolls, we have made pumpkin rolls, but one can never have too many rolls. So now I'll show you how to make delicious blueberry and lemon rolls. Scalding is my method of choice for creating ultimate softness, and it works extremely well in a recipe such as this. And you can of course customize these rolls. Fill them with your favorite filling. It could be as easy as swapping the blueberries for some other berry, or leave the lemon out of the dough and then fill them with a cheesy filling for a savory option. You can bake these rolls on the same day, or you could cold proof them and have them freshly baked for breakfast. You already know how it is. Understanding principles of baking allows us to customize recipes to our liking. And that is why one can never have too many rolls. So let's get right to it and see how these bad boys are made. Starting with the ingredients. For the dough, we'll need some white bread flour, water, yeast, salt, lemon zest, sugar, an egg yolk, butter, and I'll use the leftover egg white for glazing, although it's not totally necessary. For the filling, we'll need some fresh or frozen blueberries. I'm using frozen. We'll need some sugar, some cornstarch, and some lemon juice, which came from the lemon that I took the zest from. Last but not least, for the cream cheese frosting, we'll need some icing sugar, full fat cream cheese, butter, vanilla paste or vanilla essence, and some lemon zest. For baking, I'll use my Lloyd's Pans pizza pan, but you can use a larger tray, it doesn't really matter. We'll also need a bowl, scales, a dough scraper, temperature probe, a brush, a rolling pin. We'll need a little pan for cooking the filling, and we'll need a fine grater for the lemon zest. You can find most of the things I use in my Amazon shop, link down below. Okay, let's start by doing all the quick jobs. First things first, let's make the filling. Combine the sugar and cornstarch in a little bowl and mix them together. Leave the mix on the side for later. Drop the berries in a small pan and add the lemon juice. The lemon juice is here for extra flavor. It is up to you if you use it or not. What I'm saying is that it doesn't serve any technical purpose in this filling. Place the pan on high heat and let the berries come up to a boil. Cook them for around 6 minutes until they start reducing down and thickening. Now add the sugar and cornstarch, give it a good mix, make sure it's all dissolved and dispersed evenly, and then keep cooking the filling for around 2 more minutes. You should be able to draw a line in the filling with your spatula. This is how it should look when it's ready. Of course, the cooking time will depend on the size of your pan and on the heat that you're cooking it on. But once the filling is nice and thick, pour it into a bowl and then place it in the fridge to cool down completely. As it cools down, it'll become quite a lot thicker. Right, next up, let's make the frosting. The recipe for it is very similar to the one I use for my cinnamon rolls. The main difference here is the addition of lemon zest. Combine the cream cheese, the softened butter, the vanilla and the lemon zest. Give it all a good mix and then add the icing sugar, then mix until smooth. This can of course be customized in many different ways. Use orange instead of lemon. Add almond essence instead of vanilla. Want less sweetness? Reduce the amount of icing sugar. Increase the amount of butter. I'll leave all the creative stuff up to you. Okay, keep the frosting in the fridge for later. Let's move on to making the dough. It all starts with the scald. We'll combine a portion of the total flour with all the water, but we want the water to be boiling. Boiling water gelatinizes the starch in the flour. It destroys the gluten-forming proteins, making our dough weaker, which in turn will make the bread softer. An added benefit is that the scalded starches hold on to liquid a lot better, which slows down staling in our bread. After scalding the flour with the water, I also added the sugar, the salt, and the melted butter to the scald. I only do this because it makes life easier later when it comes to mixing the final dough. Cover the scald and leave it to cool down completely. Using a spatula, scrape the liquid from the lid back into the scald. I left my scald overnight so it cooled down to room temperature. If you're doing this on the same day, it'll take around 2 to 3 hours. Of course, it all depends on the temperature of your kitchen. You can refrigerate it to cool down sooner. Add the yeast, the lemon zest, and the egg yolk to the scald and give it all a good mix. I like to dissolve the yeast before I add the flour, even though instant yeast doesn't require us to do that. It just gives me peace of mind. If you are using active dry yeast, you should definitely mix it into the scald and then leave it to sit for around 15 minutes before adding the flour. Otherwise the dough may take way longer to rise. Okay, once you have added the flour, mix the dough, then place it in a clean bowl and take its temperature. Around 24 degrees Celsius or 75 degrees Fahrenheit is perfect for this. If your dough is a bit warmer, it'll ferment more rapidly. If it's cooler, it'll take longer. Adjust the fermentation times accordingly. Bulk fermentation will generally take around 2 hours, punctuated by 1 fold halfway through. So after 1 hour, remove the dough from the bowl, place it on the table upside down, then flatten it out, fold the edge over the middle, go around in a circle until you reach point where you started. Then flip it smooth side up again tighten it against the table, and back in the bowl it goes. To find out more about folding and all its benefits, check out the Steps of Baking playlist. Okay, cover up the dough, leave it to ferment for 1 more hour. Right after bulk fermentation, we can do the final shaping. Dust your table and your dough generously with flour, then flatten it out by hand and keep rolling with a rolling pin. Roll it to a large rectangle, then place it vertically in front of you. Remove the filling from the fridge and mix it up so it's more or less smooth and spreadable. Now dab it all over the dough. An offset spatula will really come in handy for spreading the filling out into an even layer, but you could just get away with using your dough scraper or the same spatula that you use for dabbing the filling of the dough with. You always want to leave a little uncovered edge at the top of the dough. We'll use that for sealing. Brush it with water, make it nice and sticky. Okay, now it's time to roll this thing up. This filling is plentiful and it's quite soft, so don't try to roll this too tight, otherwise you're going to squish out. As you roll the dough forwards, pull it back slightly. Try and make the roll as straight as you can. Once you reach the end, use the sticky edge to seal up the roll. Now place the roll on a chopping board. I'm going to brush this roll with softened butter. This is only necessary when you bake them side by side. It makes them easier to release from each other. If you're going to spread the rolls out on a tray and bake them individually, you don't need to do this. In that case, I would suggest using the tucking technique, which I showed in my cinnamon roll video. You'll find the video link for that in the written recipe on my website. Okay, trimming the edges is optional, I always like to do it. You can cut this roll into 6 or 8, it's up to you. I like my rolls quite big, so 6 it is. Place them on a non-stick paper lined baking tray and flatten them a bit. Now we'll cover them, leave them for the final proof, which took me around an hour and a half. And now you have to make the choice. You can either bake these for breakfast or bake them right now. I was running out of time on the day of recording this video, so I decided to pop these rolls in the fridge overnight. And don't worry, they will not overproof. All the butter and the blueberry filling will keep them locked in their shape. I left them in the fridge for 12 hours. You could leave them in the fridge even for up to 24 hours. To make them extra soft and puffy, let them warm up at room temperature while the oven is preheating on the next day, which was around 40 minutes in my case. During this time you want to preheat your oven to 170 degrees Celsius, 340 Fahrenheit, fan on. That'll be 190 Celsius or 375 Fahrenheit, fan off. Okay, just before baking, brush them with the egg white. I know it's going to be covered with frosting, but I don't want to waste it. It'll still give them a little bit of a shine. Right, let's get these puppies in the oven. They'll take around 25 minutes, no matter if you bake them on the same day or the next day. Once they are nicely browned all over, they're ready. If they're not baking evenly, and if you need to turn the tray around halfway through the bake, do it. But these things look ready to me, so leave them out to cool down completely before I top them with the frosting and tuck in. Don't top them with the frosting while they're still warm, otherwise the frosting is gonna melt. And there you have it. That's how you make super soft and puffy, delicious blueberry and lemon rolls. And if you are craving more, or if this doesn't satisfy your sweet tooth, I got plenty more recipes for you. You could head over to the enriched dough playlist, the brioche playlist, or the pastry cakes and sweet bakes playlist. There are around 400 videos on this channel. You will never run out of things to do. Explore the links on the end screen and keep baking. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.